Hey everyone, welcome to RotoWire Fantasy Football Live Friday edition, week 11. Can you believe it? We are just steamrolling through the season. Enjoy it while it lasts. It goes fast. I know there's frustrating parts of the football season, the fantasy season, but enjoy it because there'll be a day in February where you'll be like, man, there's no football, and we don't want that. Anyway, we come at you 5 days a week. 11 a.m. Eastern. If you missed the show, you can always catch the replay, so no issues or worries there. Tomorrow, we'll have John Ryan on for the DFS and Gambling Show. Today, we got Adam Thompson, bottom of the hour, bookies.com. They'll give you 5 best bets. Unless we run out of time and we give you 4, but our goal is to get you 5. We'll break down that Thursday night game. We'll give you some trending down players. Sunday, the start, sit, stream. We'll have that 11 a.m. Eastern. We're trying to figure out something with the RotoWire page for me to answer questions on Saturday. That hasn't worked out yet, but we'll get something figured out. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Let's get right to it. We are going to talk about the Thursday night debacle. And I don't mean debacle in terms of either, the game, the injuries, these Thursday night injuries, and maybe it's magnified because we watch these standalone games and we've seen it over the course of the year to see so many injuries. And I think because it's just that highlight game, but man, it was high profile. The Mark Andrews one, oh my goodness. First, he went down and looked bad and then kind of walked off the field. And then hours later, John Harbaugh expects him to be done for the season. Didn't really say. He said high ankle, but worse. So whatever that means, but then he said he's out for the season. So there's that, right? Unbelievable. Just what a bad beat there. Mark Andrews is on his way to a stellar game. He had 2 for 23 on the opening drive, got tackled a couple yards short of the goal line. And there you go. Tight end 2 or tight end 3. Hockenson could have been the 2. He was lately for sure with all the target volume he was seeing. But obviously Andrews right there at the top of the heap. And now fantasy managers are left scrapping there because obviously the investment you made in Andrews in most 12-team drafts, regular scoring, he was probably a 3rd-round pick. So that's going to be a rough one to overcome. And, we can talk about players on the waiver wire at other points in time as we get closer to the beginning of the week. But I don't know that Isaiah Likely is just going to step in and take over. See, the thing is, he looked good as a rookie. He had periods of time where he played really well. But when he's been on the field, it's a new offense. And I really think that Mark Andrews presented defenses with a real unique problem. Mark Andrews is a unique player. And not just a seam stretcher, but he creates so many problems. And the way they use him and his chemistry with Jackson, and it's like they have variations they can use with him. And Likely is very athletically talented, but he's not Mark Andrews. And this new offense, I don't think it's going to just push him into a prominent role. Andrews was their best receiver. No knock on Zay Flowers, no knock on anybody else, but Mark Andrews is their best receiver. And obviously, Lamar Jackson had the ultimate confidence in him. So this offense is hurt. Going forward, this is going to be a real problem because, look, Zay Flowers is a nice player. I call him the screen king. Obviously, he goes downfield sometimes, but a lot of his catches are screens. But without Andrews now, teams aren't going to sell out to worry about Isaiah Likely. Well, the next one down is Zay Flowers. And I see him as a very good player, but there's limitations. Small dude, and he counts on a lot of wiggle after the catch. Well, defense are going to play him a little differently now. Odell Beckham, he's starting to make some big plays. He had the shoulder thing looked at. John Harbaugh said that should be okay. It's nice to see Beckham coming on because Lamar is a good downfield passer. So I really think that we have an opportunity here to get things going with Odell Beckham down the stretch. So if you happen to be in one of those leagues where he's not rostered, there probably aren't many, but depending on the depth of your league, yeah, add him. For sure, add him, because we know if Beckham's playing well, and at this point, with no Andrews, he's going to be counted on heavily. Rashad Bateman, just 2 targets again. Beckham had 7. Bateman scores the touchdown, and we love that. But realistically, not so good. So it's a problem. I got to put my light on here. I forgot to plug this light in here. Let me get this done here. But it's a problem. Now, with Keaton Mitchell is the next one, right? So Keaton Mitchell, everybody was excited to see him play, and he got some extra work. And he had 8 touches, 8 carries, and 1 target. He had 1 or bigger play, but overall 8 for 33, a catch for 8. And it was what I cautioned people about. We know he has dynamic speed, and we get caught in a trap. We see Devon Achane play earlier this year. Super fast dude, comes in, blows it up. And then Mitchell has the two good games. The one against Seattle where he had the late fourth quarter and late third quarter, early fourth quarter, the two big, the 60 and the 40 runs. One of them goes for a touchdown. And last week he scores a touchdown, a couple explosive plays. And now we're thinking we got Devon Achane. But it's one of those things, not every fast dude is Devon Achane. And Mitchell, he's fine. He's a very good player, but he's in a three-man timeshare. And Justice Hill still played 20-something% of the snaps. They trust him at pass pro. Gus Edwards played about 38% of the snaps. Top of my head, Keaton Mitchell, I think it was 36% of the snaps, which was good. But Mitchell's going to be big play dependent. And if he doesn't get that touchdown or he doesn't get a couple big plays on that smaller volume, there you got it, 41 yards and a catch. So that's 5.1 PPR points. And like I said, he's a boom bust flex, because that's what he's going to be unless there's a significant workload increase, because you can't live on that volume when you're big play dependent. And at the goal line, we saw, obviously, Gus Edwards, he has been crushing it the last month. It's like 4 or 5 games. He has at least 3 multi-touchdown games in that time period. Gus Edwards, like I said, if he doesn't score touchdowns, it could be problematic because he doesn't catch many passes, 2 for 8 in this one. But Gus Edwards, at this point, you flex him, and depending on the injury status of your league, you got to use an RB2 as I did in some leagues. I benched him in one. Oh my God, not so good. I had better options, but you hate to put 2 touchdowns on your bench, is what it is, right? Lamar, very good fantasy game. One of his higher passing yardage games at 264. Now the Bengals are terrible on defense. No knock on Lamar. He's been beautiful all season. Just for fantasy, he hasn't gotten it done so much, but 2 touchdown passes. So there was that. And he ran for 54 yards. Obviously, he tweaked up an ankle, and he kept going to the ground early. And I don't know if he just didn't want to get an ankle folded back up on. So that might have been all it was. But it was interesting. It was interesting to see that nonetheless. All right, outside of that, I think we're good on the Ravens. But that Mark Andrews injury is problematic. The Bengals, oh my gosh, Joe Burrow. Woof. Well, whatever it is that's up with that thumb, they have 11 days till their next game. I have no idea the magnitude of the injury. Obviously, he couldn't hold the football or throw it. And it was clearly, we found out after the game, a problem he came into the game with, but it got worse. But we don't know what it is. But if it's going to be 50-50 at best that we see him next week. So when you do your next waiver run, some leagues will allow waivers like early, like before Sunday. Yeah, you can. I mean, what am I thinking? All leagues have waivers before Sunday. Maybe grab a quarterback off the waiver wire in case Burrow can't go. Don't wait, because right now, most of your other teams in your league are probably set for this week at quarterback. If you only carry Burrow and you don't have a backup, the pickings will be better now than they probably will be on the waiver wire, especially if somebody wants to try to block you. If you have Burrow and maybe they're playing you. So be careful about that. So I would strongly consider just getting someone off the waiver wire in case Burrow can't go. But, Jamar Chase was going to be the target of the Baltimore defense. Now, we've seen Chase win in those situations. No T. Higgins. That didn't help. And then certainly when Burrow went down, that was an even bigger problem. Chase, fortunately, ends up with the late touchdown, because if he hadn't scored that late touchdown, that was going to be a bad game. He has about 2 catches for 12 yards and a touchdown. So he gets you at 9.3 PPR points. But, man, it would have been like a catch for 10, and that would have been it. So, fortunately, garbage time and Jake Browning getting him the ball, that fortunately worked out for him. All right, that said, Tyler Boyd, I was worried about this. Baltimore, they played him for years. They know what to expect of him, and he was treated as the number 2. And I was kind of worried. I called him a boom bust for fantasy, and yeah, it was 3 for 22, not good. Trenton Irwin, again, desperation flex territory, just missed getting near the end zone, had 1 catch he should have had, and he didn't hold on to it. He should have been closer to 4 catches in 45 or 50 yards, but 3 for 36. Again, if you're in a deep, deep league and you get desperation flexed them, you got 6.6 PPR points, better than what Boyd did at least. So there's that. Until Chase scored a touchdown. Heck, he had Chase outscored, but that's not good. The player who's actually been on the move, and again, if Burrow's not back, this is problematic. Tanner Hudson has been PPR viable for 3 straight weeks. His targets 4, 5, and 7. He has his yardage. He had 4 for 45 3 weeks ago, 6 for 33 last week, 4 for 49 last night. So he had at least 8.5 PPR points in three straight games. Now, Burrow's not in, not as optimistic, but they have been funneling a lot of targets to their tight ends. 7 tight end targets in this game, 11 last week, 13 the week prior. They've been funneling serious targets to the tight ends. And now I don't know how long T. Higgins out. I don't know how Burrow's out, but there's that. Now Joe Mixon looked nice. The yardage 16 for 69 is fine. He did catch 5 for 31. They were dumping him the ball more, especially the way they had to attack Baltimore. Baltimore was really looking to take Chase out, and Mixon had a history of good receiving success against Baltimore, so they got him a little more, but that didn't surprise me at all, and he did score a touchdown through the air. So Mixon continuing to get it done. Baltimore has been much better against the pass and the run, so there's that. But obviously, Mixon, you know what he is at this point. He's a volume-based running back, too, and he gets a touchdown, he gets you more. And the receptions were high. Actually, he had 5 catches and same yardage, 5 for 31 against Buffalo a couple weeks ago. So the PPR actually, he's not going to, he had the 2 catches for -1 last week. But for the most part with PPR, Mixon probably is closer to that top 12 and 15 category because they do use him in the screen game quite a bit to offset opposing pass rushes. All right, good on that one. If you're enjoying the show and if you're on RotoWire YouTube, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. If you have Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel, I will be on Saturday 1 to 3 in the afternoon, Sunday 9 to 10 a.m. with all the late breaking overnight news. Bottom of the hour, Adam Thompson's coming in, so we'll be excited to see Adam. And all right, let's move on to some trending players. We're looking at players trending downward here, and it's interesting. I usually have some comments in here. That's usually it's a bit of a surprise. Usually have. All right, let's get at it. I usually have some comments there. I was looking to see if anybody was around. We have a lot of YouTube. Oh, Charlene's in the house. Nice to see somebody here. I go, man, did I put the wrong link up or something? But Charlene, good to see you. Glad you're here. I was getting lonely there for a while. All right, quarterback fallers. Look, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think it's all his fault. It doesn't matter. We play fantasy football. Look, Press Taylor is their offensive coordinator. Doug Peterson, I don't understand why he hasn't taken the offense over. I get it. You trust your offensive coordinator. First of all, everything they're running is very short in nature. They do throw some go routes to Calvin Ridley. They're not that often, but their offense is really compressed. It's a lot of underneath stuff to Kirk, and it's a lot of underneath stuff to Ingram, and it hurts. Yes, it's just 2 of us. That's good, though. Glad you're here. So Zay Jones, he may not be a great player, but I think they miss him. So what their goal was to do offensively is they did want to work the middle of the field. But when you work the middle of the field, you're running different players on what they call them these mesh routes, where you're running players through different areas, but you're creating mismatches. The drop off from Zay Jones to either Tim Jones or, my God, Jamel Agnew when he's in the game, it's problematic. And it's one less receiver that the defense have to worry about. And with Ingram and Kirk not really getting downfield much, Kirk occasionally, but it's not really the staple of the offense. So Trevor Lawrence now has this idea where the offense isn't very vertical. When defenses realize that they play in to basically crush that in. And Ridley not being unlocked at all. If you remember Ridley, when you saw him in Atlanta, he was running a lot more slant routes. Like I said, he's running some go routes here, but he ran more in Atlanta. He was more versatile as a receiver. Because they're running all these receivers like Ingram and Kirk in the middle of the field, they're keeping Ridley away from that. So everybody's losing in the offense. Now, Kirk's coming up for fantasy, and Ingram's getting some PPR value, but no ceiling games until they decide to open up the offense to move the ball and test downfield, loosen the defense up, they're going to have a problem. Trevor Lawrence is not getting multiple touchdown games. And his yardage, I mean, in 2 of the last 3 games, it's less than 205 yards, 205 yards. Terrible. It's not his fault. But right now, with the way defense are playing him and the way Press Taylor is running the offense, it's not changing. Now, hopefully, like I said, at some point, if Doug Peterson steps in, maybe the loss to the 49ers, maybe it woke him up. If you saw that 49ers game, nobody was playing back at all. Like normal, the deep safety. No, it was no deep safety. They were playing in, down, way down. And it really complicated matters for them. In the running game, ETNs for fantasy has been great. The blocking in the run game, atrocious. They're not getting him any room to run. He has to create it all on his own. And again, his defense is compressed. There's more bodies to deal with. So again, unless Peterson fixes things, it's a problem. Let's go to some running back negatives. Jonathan Taylor, I know he's on the bye this week. Look, they've been ramping up his work every week. The snap share has gone up, up, up. He had 88% last week. He had 23 carries and a target. Basically, Zach Moss is done. Based on that, Moss playing time, you could probably cut him unless you're saving him for injury insurance for Taylor. But Taylor hasn't been good. 23 carries for 69 yards. Yeah, I can't do much math, but that's 3 yards a carry. 18 for 47 the week prior. That's less than 3 yards a carry. It's Jonathan Taylor we're talking about here. Now, he scored a touchdown in the last 2 weeks, and he had 5 catches for 22. So he's getting it done for running back 2 value. Running back 2 value. Not running back number 2, like the top of the list, like the 12 to 23 range. That's what Jonathan Taylor is getting you right now. Now, they're on a bye, but he does not look like the same player. So I don't know what quite to do with that. But right now, Jonathan Taylor's a running back 2. He has to be in condition by now. I would have to think he's past that point. So I just don't, in the run blocking, Zach Moss look, Jonathan Taylor, he ain't no Zach Moss. Long term, I know he is. I know he's a superstar, but he's not playing like one. Zach Moss was way better for the offense than Jonathan Taylor. And this continues to prove the case, right? You pay these running backs. Zach Moss was producing for them. They would have been wise to have traded Taylor and gone with Moss. But again, it's neither here nor there. But yeah, not good. Tony Pollard, we talk about him all the time. And I won't keep repeating this over and over. And I'll say this quickly. When Pollard, this happens so often. When Pollard was the number 2, defenses were playing at Zeke Elliott speed, grinder running back, playing at that speed. And then the fast guy comes in, and the defense, you can't just say, oh, he's in. Now we got to play fast. It just doesn't work. Muscle memory doesn't work that way. Defense is getting a rhythm. And when Pollard come in, he hit these huge plays. Huge plays haven't been there. It's like 4 yards per carry this season. He was 5.5 last year. Yards per reception, way down. Defenses are playing faster because he's the lead back. Now, the passing game has been fine for Dallas, but Pollard hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. And he hasn't sniffed 70 scrimmage yards since their bye week. And that was a month ago. So right now, you start Pollard every week. He's a running back 2 based on volume. He's getting about close to 15 touches a game. But it's not good. It's not good at all. And I don't see it turning around. There's nothing in this profile that's going to change. So it's kind of our new reality. All right, let's see. We got Adam Thompson coming in bottom of the hour. Charlene, you had a good laugh yesterday. Fantasy managers are freaking out with the waiver wire. You already stacked your roster for the playoffs. That is really smart to do. And for those of you that haven't done that yet, people are going to make these late desperation moves before the fantasy playoffs. In trade-wise, if your trade deadline still hasn't gone off, if you have this team, what I always say is if you're in a position where you have a lot of depth, players who are very good, but you can't start them because your roster's too good, sometimes you could package a couple of these good, useful players who could start for somebody else for a better player, a 2-for-1 deal or something. You get the one player that's an improvement. The other player gets 2 players that helps their starting lineup. Seek to make those offers. It's called shortening your bench for the playoffs. It's unless you feel you are the overwhelming favorite to win your league, then you keep rolling with your team. But if you feel that if your playoff started today, you're just banking on luck to make it through, If you have that depth now, you take the chance. If you get injuries, you can get burned, but it's that risk reward thing. And if those players are on your bench, they're not doing you a lot of good now. If you can get one upgrade to your starting lineup, it's a net win in going for a title. So consider that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's some receivers trending downward. Well, we talked about Calvin Ridley when we talked about Trevor Lawrence. Again, I don't think Ridley is a different player than he was in Atlanta. He's being used differently. He's not being used to his strength. Press Taylor does not have a clue. And the downfield routes they're taking, they're predictable. They're just down the sideline routes. They're not creative. And Ridley is the only player who's consistently doing those routes. So when they start moving him in that direction, the safety just goes that way. And it's kind of not so difficult to cut off. Ridley is a very good player, but he's not that Jamar Chase type that's going to win despite, a second man or a shell. So until they start using him on slants, we already know he wins out routes all day long. But until they get him over the middle of the field, but because Ingram and Kirk are there, it's probably not going to happen. So right now, look, Ridley had 6 for 83 on 10 targets in a recent game. I don't know why I have it in my notes. And before the bye, but then 49ers 2 for 20 on 3 targets. He had a 1 for 5, a 4 for 30. That 6 for 83 game, it doesn't happen much. You're more likely to get the 20, 30-yard game. So right now, Ridley, low floor flex. He's getting targets, so he'll get you something. But the reality is right now, the big games aren't coming in. And they're not even big games. The better games aren't coming frequently. So you have to seriously consider benching him. Now, can he get 100 yards and a touchdown a week? Yes. But does he do that twice the rest of the way? Maybe. Maybe once. But the way the season, unless they change their offense, probably not happening. Drake London. Oh, he has a bye this week, so which is good. But that little run he had earlier in the season, that's a month in the rearview mirror. Now, he had a 6 for 54, a 5 for 55, and then last week a 3 for 36. So right now, he's settling in. Now, whether it's Heineke, whether it's Desmond Ridder, the offense is not really going anywhere. So he is a PPR, high-end flex, low-end wide receiver 3. Those 11-point PPR games are fine. And maybe the ceiling comes back at some point. But right now, Drake London is just stuck in an offense. And that's what it is. He's a very good player. Drake London probably is a star in this league. And he will be a star at some point. But he'll have to get in a healthier situation where he is used to dominate. Big physical frame. Can win in many different ways. Can run after the catch. Can break tackles. But in this offense, not getting the maximization of his talents. Charlene, what do you got here? Sometimes you have to bench your stud players because the coaches rest their stud players for the. Yep. You're right. You're right. Snap counts do get lower, especially those very, very final weeks when you're looking right at the fantasy championship for sure. Adam Thielen's next. Well, he hasn't been bad, but we knew that hot streak. And I had referenced that big hot streak in that 4-week thing. He hadn't seen a stretch like that since 2018. But he's still getting targets. Last week against the Bears, 6 for 42 on 9 targets. The prior week, 5 for 29 at 6 targets. They get Dallas this week. The hot streak's over. He can have another spike game or 2 down the road. But realistically, their weapons, A, they're not getting much separation across the board. B, they have a very limited quarterback. The offensive line isn't helping him either. Bryce Young's getting no favors. Ike Ekwonu, the left tackle, has not stepped up in the second year. He's regressed. And the pass protection is bad. You got a small quarterback. He doesn't have a dominant power arm. He had one nice deep throw against the Bears. I think I got broken up. Not his fault. But that said, Adam Thielen, just look, you drafted him where you drafted him. You got a steal. You got great value for about a month. Hopefully you started him through most of that. Right now, I think you see a PPR wide receiver 3 because he's going to get the target volume. He's going to continue to see that. And in games they're getting blown out, there's going to be an opportunity to see him over the middle of the field. So that works out as well. Tight ends. Jonnu Smith had a screen pass for touchdown, 60 yards 2 weeks ago. But his last 3 games, aside from that game where he had that huge screen pass, He had a 1-for-1 last week on 2 targets. He had a 1-for-13 before that big game, and he had a 3-for-27. I think we've kind of seen it run its course. I think Jonnu Smith had that great early season run with a ton of targets, but the targets now have scaled down. Again, he had a 6-target game 2 weeks ago, but he had 6 targets total in his other 3 games in the last 4. So I don't see a whole lot going on with that. And Charlene says pick up players that are in the wild cards or in the hunt. Yes, if you're looking to the fantasy playoffs, if there are teams that are completely eliminated and they're going to be out of the race real early, teams can start looking at younger players. And if there's teams that, I don't think there are going to be many teams. I don't think this year we're going to have the case where teams have put away a 1 seed or put away a playoff spot. I think the playoff field is going to be tight for the most part. So, but I think Charlene's definitely talking about, teams that are going to have something to play for. The teams that are completely out of it, like the Panthers. Is there a point down the road? Well, they start maybe trying out, get some of the younger players more involved. Maybe Terrace Marshall, who's been benched, maybe he gets in a little bit more. Maybe, DJ Chark hasn't been used much. Now, I do talk about DJ Chark for a minute. The one thing I'll say about DJ Chark is this, that if Andy Dalton, for some reason, has to come in and play games, DJ Chark is somebody you'd like to add right away because DJ Chark would potentially do well, but he doesn't have a chance as long as his current quarterback is one Bryce Young. So that's not so good. We should have Adam Thompson coming in a few minutes here. Trying to look through any energy. So the Browns are working out Joe Flacco. Potentially not terrible. Now, they have injuries at tackle on their offensive line. The interior line is good. But if Flacco ends up in there, again, he's very immobile. But Amari Cooper could benefit greatly if Flacco's because Flacco will kind of force the ball his way. There should be enough protection. And look, it's good they're getting the Pittsburgh game out of the way this week. They've had their 2 Baltimore games. So these teams that could scheme up a lot of heavy pressure, those games will be off the schedule. So that'll be a net positive. So if Flacco does end up there, don't expect fantasy numbers from Joe Flacco, but I do think Amari Cooper is going to see a significant, heavy prioritization of those targets, and that would work out very well for him. Looking at this week's games, that Monday night game, Kansas City against Philadelphia. I know we're all excited for that one. From a fantasy perspective, I'm very interested to see how Andy Reid comes out and prepares for this one. Because when we look at it, he's coming off a bye. They've had some serious issues offensively. And when we get ready for this, I want to see if Rashee Rice is going to be a bigger factor. He was doing much better as the season progressed, navigating zones, but his target share was still 5-ish per game. He actually had a 2 or 3 target, I think, maybe 2 target game against Miami. But his targets, if they go up and they weaponize him more, I'm very excited to see that. Adam Thompson, happy Friday, week 11. How did you start your week out?
Good. Thursday's been going really well for me, actually. I think I've hit like 12 of the last 13 or something like that when it comes to picks and props. So yeah, yesterday my only miss was Mark Andrews, who got knocked out. So and that was it. I had Lamar Jackson over on rush attempts. That was 4th quarter. And then I had Ravens spread. And obviously Joe Burrow going down helped. But Baltimore has given up big leads to lesser teams. So it was still a risk. Anytime you want to pick Baltimore. Baltimore money line's been a great bet. Baltimore spread, usually okay, but it's hairy until the end.
Now, Adam, I had laid off the point spread in that game, but as soon as I saw Joe Burrow's face when he was injured, I think it was the second time they showed him, the line at that point in game was 7.5. I jumped on a decent sized bet for Baltimore the rest of the way. To me, that told me that we weren't going to see Joe Burrow again. And I was pretty soon after that, the line went to 14. So I don't remember the final score off the top of my head now, but I don't think they would have covered that one. So
no, Chase scored a touchdown, like late into meaningless touchdown. I think that cut it to 13.
Yes, it
maybe.
was a
Is that
14 and a
right?
half line. It was 14 and a half. So I got it at seven and a
Yeah.
half in game, ended up cha-ching. Anyway, let's get to this.
Yeah.
Now, Adam, next Tuesday, we're looking at doing a show for everybody on some of those Thanksgiving games. So we're going to be excited to do that. But everybody, I'll make sure we announce that up early. But Adam and I will have you covered for some good Turkey Day football games. All right, let's get into them here. So Miami has been lethal at home. Now, they've had some cupcake opponents at home. I'm going to give them that, too. I know Carolina, the Giants were in there. When Denver was not playing well, they're playing much better now. So that was part of it. The Raiders have been spunky on defense. I'm going to give them that. They played better than we thought. That said, since they had the new coach, they're leaning on that run game, really making it Josh Jacobs, 26-plus carries in the 2 games since he's taken over. Miami's been great against the run. How are you looking at this game?
Yeah, all Miami, all day. Like you said, they've pounded on. They're kind of like the school, the class bully. They pick on kids that they know that they can beat. But when it comes to facing, guys their own size, aka the Chiefs, aka kind of the Bills, then they cower. Then they don't. They just look like a shell of themselves. But this Raiders team, they're going to go back to picking on kids that they can beat up. They've won all their home games handily. They've won them all by, I think, at least 15 points, 14 or 15 points. 2 of those, they were favored by 12 and 13, still covered easily. I think at home, they get healthier. They're coming off a bye. They're coming off that loss as well. So I think they have a lot of motivation to kind of prove to a lot of people, including themselves, that they can get back to where they should be. And as far as the Raiders go, they've won 2 straight. They're clearly behind this new coach, Pierce. They're playing very well, but this team still isn't that good on paper. Aiden O'Connell still is not it.
Right.
They have a lot of question marks. On the lines. They've played. What was it? They've played against 2 teams, I think, with winning records all season, and they lost those games by 12 and by 28. So this isn't a team that compete. Their 2 wins came against the Giants and the Jets, teams that cannot score against anybody. And now you go against a Dolphins team that put up 70 earlier this year and has put up 30 plus against any lesser competition that they face. So yeah, I think Miami rolls in this one. I think they'll cover.
When we look at this game too, we see all the national games with Max Crosby. They're just making the biggest deal out of him. He always gets a ton of pressure. Tua gets the ball out really fast, and I think that really negates Crosby. So the people that are worried about that, I think that totally mitigates it. That's going to be something for people to look at as well. But like you said, Roy, now, Adam, I do like Tyreek Hill over 90 yards. I know they've been bad competition at home, but he has blown that away in every home game. Is there any hitch on that bet that you see, or is that one all right to go with?
No, I like that one. I'm staying away from the running backs. Mostert I've really liked all year, but now, now they're a fully loaded backfield again. So I'll stay away from that. But yeah, I agree. Tyreek Hill, he likes. If you don't have a guy who can specifically match up against him, and there aren't many people who can do that,
nope.
And when they have all their other weapons in hand, what do? You pick your poison, and Tyreek Hill is going to get his.
So the next game, Arizona, the boys are back in town. They got him some Kyler Murray. He was looking so mobile, buying time laterally, pushing the pocket up and down. It was a thing of beauty to see him move. Now, he didn't get Marquise Brown involved, but he certainly got Trey McBride involved. James Conner was only getting rushing attempts, but again, just very, very solid. So it's fun to watch. Their defense is still awful. There's no question. They played Atlanta, so there was that. Houston, we saw them beat the Bengals earlier in the year. We saw them lay an egg against Carolina and lose. Now Houston's at home for this one, but Noah Brown, he has a knee injury. Hopefully he suits up, but he's missed practice time. That defense has been coming on. They're getting some passes from Will Anderson. The corners have been playing well enough. How do you see this game shaking out, Adam?
Yeah, Houston had its issues against Carolina, like you said, but that was against an experienced coach and defense players. They have players on defense,
yes,
especially against the pass defense, and that's obviously what Houston's kind of relying on right now. Arizona doesn't have any of those things. Their defense is atrocious. No team east of New York has allowed more touchdowns than Arizona, and that includes Denver, who gave up 70 earlier in the season. Yeah, Arizona gives up a lot of points, so. I think this is a great spot for Houston. I do like what Arizona is doing. Obviously, Kyler Murray, I did not have faith in him last week, and he pulled it out. He looked great in the end. That huge the third down run late was killed me. But I was impressed. I gave him the nod. But yeah, I think Houston's defense, pass defense has been more elite lately. Arizona, even with Kyler Murray, kind of struggled to get into the end zone. They were going, they got yards, but they didn't really score a lot, at least as far as sixes go. So I think Houston can cover here at home. -5. I got it at -4. They're both kind of awkward-ish numbers. So this isn't my most confident play of the year, but I am going with Houston.
I can't see why not either in this one. Like I said, it's a good story with Kyler right now, but CJ Stroud has really shown that he is one of the top quarterbacks. I mean, there's going to be no pressure on him. And I think that's critical too. It'll allow him to go through progressions. Not that they'll need to, because his guys should be open. Nico Collins could actually get back to having one of those elite games earlier in the season. Excited to see how this all works out, Adam. Now, Charlene does have questions about the Steelers-Browns. Adam's going to cover that in 2 games, but right now we're going the Chargers at the Packers. So Jordan Love maybe showed some signs of life, but I'm not overly optimistic. Again, the downfield passes are really hit or miss. The defense, Jair Alexander looks like he might be back here. The Chargers, what a weird team. Just played in a big shootout, and Justin Herbert looked great. Other games, they haven't been quite as efficient on offense. They're really a confusing team right now, but they are traveling from home over to Green Bay. How are you breaking this game down, Adam?
Yeah, as far as Jordan Love goes, it's taking time and the results just aren't there, but you can see he's getting a little better. He had the downfield throws. He actually looked good last week for the most part, which is really the first time. Usually if he throws it past 10 yards, it's not even catchable. And if it is catchable, the receivers aren't catching him anyway. It's been a myriad of reasons why the Packers are just not where they want to be, but they've been in games. Their defense is playing very well. And like you said, the Chargers, you just don't, it's a flip of the coin. What team is going to show up even offensively? But now it's a one receiver pass game, and you have Eckler obviously, but there's only one receiver that you have to worry about. And if Jair Alexander can play, he wants to be that Sauce Gardner type. He's like, he wants to be the guy, like, put me on their top guy. Let me just go at this guy one-on-one. They don't do that enough, in my opinion. They need to do that more. And this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And, if Jordan Love and that pass game can't get going here against the Civ, that doesn't provide any pressure against the quarterback, this Chargers defense, then you might have to start looking at, okay, what are we doing here in the draft next year? Because Jordan Love's not it. So I think the Packers getting 3 points at Lambeau is a big deal. I actually thought the Chargers would be maybe getting more points, but +3, I'm pretty happy with that. It was +3.5. It's going down, so I grabbed it at +3.
Last week, Aaron Jones continued to get his work, but Pittsburgh, they may not be great against the run this year, but I don't think they were really worried about Jordan Love. So they were able to commit resources to make sure they kept him in the shorter area of the field. And Aaron Jones didn't have a great game. The Chargers, they are not good at any level of their defense. They're not as bad of a run defense as last year, but they are still way below average. Receiving backs can ding them up really good here. The Packers are showing they want to get Aaron Jones the ball. This could be what I see a potential eruption game for Aaron Jones. I do like the over on Aaron Jones combined rushing receiving yards. I never know where he's going to get the yards from. He might get him on the ground. He might get him through the air. I think it's like 84 yards. Is that one off base, or is there any merit to that one?
No, that's good. And you're right, because Jones, they'll line him up at wide receiver for plays. They have a lot of trust in him to run long routes for passes. So you never know what they're going to do, especially, if A.J. Dillon's rolling, they stick with him for a while. And then Aaron Jones kind of like, they find other ways to get Aaron Jones the ball. So yeah, that's a good idea. The rush total, you might want to stay away from Aaron Jones, but the total, that's a good one.
Now, the next game, Charlene was asking about this one of our favorite daily regulars on the show, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. So the line was initially 3.5, and then Deshaun Watson obviously out for the season. And now Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the line moved 2 points. Is that a scathing indictment on Deshaun Watson?
Right.
Or let's be optimistic and say it's a very positive spin on that Cleveland defense. I don't know which one it is. Be a nice guy and say it's the Cleveland defense. Tough divisional game. These teams met earlier in the season. Deshaun Watson was under a ton of pressure in that game. Nick Chubb got injured. He was tearing them up and then unfortunately got hurt. How do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, I think Ford could have a big game, speaking of running backs, but Pittsburgh, now famously at this point, they've been outgained in every game that they've played this year, and they're they're 6-3. They have a winning record. So smoke and mirrors, coaching, I
Voodoo
don't know what
dolls.
you want to, voodoo dolls, or just clutch individual moments from guys like Watt and even Pickett to an extent. But the Browns, when they played the Browns, they got outgained. It was 408 to 255. It wasn't that close. Like you said, Chubb was going off on him. Dorian, yeah, I'm going with the Browns on this one. I'll start with that.
Me too.
Their defense is just so good. Kenny Pickett, I just don't see him doing a whole lot against this defense. So it should be a low scoring game. And Dorian, he got one opportunity this year. He found out he was going to be the starter 2 hours before the game started, and predictably had a miserable game. And it was against the Ravens. So you put all those things together, you have to kind of wipe that one out. People are saying, out of Browns camp this week, night and day difference. They have a lot of confidence. Maybe they're just saying that. I don't know, but I'll pick them at the dog pound for Cleveland. They've played 2 games as a home favorite. They're still favored by about half a point. So technically they are a home favorite. They've outscored their competition 54-3 so far in 2 games at home. So that defense really steps up. The offense does more than enough. And I think they can do enough here to get basically a money line win. You don't even need the spread. You can just go straight money line.
Yeah, on DraftKings right now, I see it's 1.5 Browns at -110. The money line is -120. So is the 1.5 worth the minus extra 10?
Maybe, because this could be a 17-16.
Yes.
20-19 at the most type of game. I don't think either offense is going to do a ton, and I think both are going to try to run the ball a lot. So this might be 13-10 or 14-13, something. 17-16 is kind of my final answer.
Which brings us to Charlene's other question about the over and under. Adam, this is down to 33. There are not many lines that I see that are at 33. Wow. Do you remember many other than extreme weather games?
No, I remember Iowa Northwestern was like 28 or something like that. That was like high 20s, and everybody was laughing at it. And I think the final score was like 10-7. Yeah, like so that. It actually hit under.
Right.
And actually, I didn't even realize that was the total. And my prediction was 17-16, which is exactly where that total is. So I probably wouldn't touch it. I guess I would probably go under because I don't have any confidence in either team. I think it's going to be a field goal game. Somebody's going to win at the end, and I hope it's Cleveland.
Now, and like you said, I probably lay off this too. And the reason being, it should go under, but you could see Myles Garrett fumble 6 or force Kenny Pickett into some horrible, bad short field turnovers, and the other way around too. You could see if Thompson Robinson looks the way he did in his last start, TJ Watt could completely wreck that game, and
they're missing both tackles, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's
right. Both tackles are out.
Yeah, I think it could be. What's the over under on turnovers? Maybe hit the over on
that
those.
Might be the way to go. So so that's the only problem. The game should go under, but just remember, it's a very dangerous haul when you have 2 outstanding defenses against 2 quarterbacks that have plenty of issues. We'll see if the running games get going here because Pittsburgh has really fixed their running game, Adam. So Kenny Pickett now, they've been running a little more under center. They're running a little more pin pull concepts. They were running a lot of zone runs before. So the running game has changed. And both running backs for the last 3 or 4 weeks have been much more productive than they were in the first part of the season. And Cleveland, that's where you could get them. You could get them on the ground. That keeps your quarterback safe. It'll be fun to watch how that one goes. I won't bet a prop on either of those running backs because I don't know which one's going to do better.
Yeah,
one more game.
I think Ford. Yeah, I don't know what else Cleveland's going to be able to do with Dorian. Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it is night and day. You just never know. You're right.
Too difficult. Last one we're going to go over here is Minnesota at Denver, the Sunday nighter. So Denver has proven that this ultimate small sample size sport of football. We had them doomed in the first 3-4 weeks of the season as being, man, it's like the worst team in the NFL. And now they're knocking off the Bills. They knocked off the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They're defensively healthier. Players, I think, are understanding their roles a bit better. They are much more stable defensively. They have some players who are playmakers, jumping routes, very, very effective. The run game on offense, Javonte Williams has now become the centerpiece of that offense. Russell's throwing when he has to, making him more effective. Minnesota, we continue to see all kinds of exotic blitzes out of Brian Flores. Very confusing for quarterbacks. They're good enough against the run, but they're really getting these young secondary players to step up. This is a tough game. Who do you like here, and how do you like the game to go?
Yeah, I'm going with Denver on this one. I'm in now on Denver because I think they know, the fun world of the NFL is you can win a lot of different ways. You just got to have to figure out what that is. And with the new coach and Russell Wilson being what he is now, and Javonte finally healthy, they've kind of figured that out now. It's basically run, and then pass when you have to pass, right? And then Russell Wilson, he can still make plays when he has to, as long as he doesn't have to chuck it 40 yards, because that's not happening. Cortland Sutton's really emerged right now. Jerry Jeudy's not, much to the chagrin of most of my fantasy teams. But yeah, I like what they're trying to do. They're running a lot to set up the pass, basically. And this Vikings team is very good against the run at home, especially. At home, they're allowing 60 yards rushing a game. On the road, they're allowing 137 yards rushing a game at about 4.5 a clip. So
yes,
two different defenses. One's built for turf, not built for grass, and this one's going to be on grass, mile high. So I think Denver is going to score some points. And Josh Dobbs, you have to be impressed. First off, that the Vikings went and got Josh Dobbs because that saved their season.
yes.
Amazing call out for the GM and the staff there. And when Dobbs started for his first game, it looked horrible. He got a safety. He fumbled. It just looked really bad. But he turned around. They won that game. He looked great the second game. So what do you think now? Justin Jefferson, we don't know 100%, right? If he's playing.
We don't know for sure because last week he practiced. So yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, I've seen he's, quote, doing everything he can under his power because he wants to play. And then O'Connell kind of goes, well, I don't know. We'll see. So I'm kind of leaning that he's not going to play in this one. Just I think those give him one more week. So I like Denver. I think Josh Dobbs is still kind of turnover prone. He's been great so far with Minnesota, but and in Arizona, obviously different skill set, different people around him. But he was prone to turnovers, and I think Denver at home at night, I think they get it done.
Now, Adam, no analysis on this one. You just in one of your games with Charlene was asking. Oh, I just lose Adam. I think you might. There you go, Adam. We had a quick question. With no analysis needed. 49ers minus 12 right now. She's 12.5, but it's minus 12 on at DraftKings over the Buccaneers. Just no analysis. Who do you like in that one? Oh, Adam can't hear. Let me see if I got you on here. All right, Adam's out, which is fine. We went through all his games. So I do think that in this game, there's going to be an issue for the Buccaneers. They pass protect very well. That's what they've done well. Baker Mayfield's going to be under some threat. That line probably doesn't hold up with the new enhanced. We got you back, Adam.
Hey, there we are.
So just no analysis needed. 49ers minus 12 or 12.5 against the Bucs. Who do you like in that one?
Niners. I liked all of the huge favorites except for the Commanders. I actually think the Giants can hang in that one, but I tried to stay away from them because I really like them all. But 10.5, 11.5, just weird point spreads. But I think in Dallas, not good on the road sometimes, so I stayed away from them there. San Francisco is probably my 6th favorite pick of the week.
Perfect.
I think they're going to get it done. I think Tampa Bay, I like Baker Mayfield. He has weapons, but they're not scoring that many points, really. I think San Francisco is just on all cylinders. When Trent Williams is in that game, it makes all the difference in the world for Brock Purdy. And they're just a completely different team. So I think they keep it rolling.
Adam, tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Twitter, X, all the socials at Bookies Adam. And then, of course, bookies.com and bookies.com/picks for the picks this week.
All right. We're expecting to be back Tuesday with some Thanksgiving Day picks. So we'll keep you posted on the X about that one. Adam, good luck this week. For Adam, I'm Jim. Everybody have a great weekend. Be back tomorrow with the show, and the start sit stream is Sunday at 11. Have a great weekend, everyone.